The dust of Silphos was a fine, red grit that got everywhere. It coated Jax's overalls, clogged the filters of his mech, and tasted like regret. His claim was a bust. The seismic scans had lied. Instead of a rich vein of palladium, he'd found a whole lot of nothing and a faulty hydraulic line that had left him stranded 20 clicks from his lander. He'd spent the day trying to patch the line, his knuckles bloody from slipping wrenches. The twin suns were sinking, painting the desolate canyon in shades of orange and purple. He was down to his last canteen, and the comms were just static. Another glorious day on the frontier. That's when he heard the whimper. It was a thin, desperate sound, like air escaping a broken valve. He followed it around a jagged outcropping of rust-colored rock. There, trapped under a recent rock slide, was an alien. It was unlike anything he'd seen in the catalogs. Sleek and feline, with fur the color of amethyst and silver, and long, graceful limbs. One of its hind legs was pinned under a boulder. The fur around it matted with shimmering, cobalt blue blood. Its eyes, large and luminous like pools of molten gold, were wide with pain and fear. It bared needle-sharp fangs at his approach, a low, threatening growl rumbling in its chest. Jax froze. The rule was clear. Observe, do not interfere. The Galactic Charter was a thick book, and most of its pages were about not touching the locals. But this wasn't a first contact scenario. It was a creature in agony. He looked at the boulder, then at his broken mech, then at the alien's terrified eyes. The Charter could go to hell. Easy there, fella, he said, his voice low and calm. He slowly set down his toolkit. He had no idea if it understood tone, but he kept talking. Just gonna try and help. That looks like it hurts. He assessed the rock. Too big to lift, even with the mech's one good arm. He'd have to dig it out. He spent the next hour on his knees, scooping away the smaller stones and gravel with his hands, his back screaming in protest. The alien watched him, its growl subsiding into a tense silence, its golden eyes never leaving him. Finally, he dug a trench under the edge of the boulder. Using his last functioning hydraulic jack from the mech, he managed to lift the rock just enough. The alien, with a surge of desperate strength, dragged its leg free. It collapsed, panting, the leg bent at a sickening angle. It was then that Jack saw how thin it was. Its ribs showed through its beautiful fur. Dehydration was a universal language, and this creature was fluent. Without a second thought, Jax uncorked his last canteen. He poured a small amount into the cap and gently slid it across the ground. The alien flinched, then sniffed the air. Its long, forked tongue darted out, tasting the moisture. Slowly, cautiously, it lapped at the water. Then it drank greedily. Jax emptied the rest of the canteen into a hollow in the rock, and the alien drank it all, its entire body shuddering with relief. He then turned to the leg. Using a length of carbon fiber rod from his toolkit and a strip of cloth from his own shirt, he fashioned a crude splint. The alien flinched but allowed it, its intelligent eyes watching his every move. When he was done, it tried to stand, wobbling precariously on 3 legs. "You're not going anywhere fast, buddy," Jax said. He retreated to his mech, giving it space. He spent a cold, hungry night listening to the strange, whistling cries of Silphos' nocturnal life, occasionally seeing the glint of those golden eyes in the darkness. At first light, he was awakened by a sound that froze the blood in his veins. It was a low, rhythmic pounding, like war drums, but deeper, more organic. It was a sound of heavy footfalls, many of them. He scrambled out of his mech's cockpit. The canyon, empty and silent the day before, was now filled with life. Dozens of the feline aliens stood, watching him. They were taller than the injured one, their muscles coiled under their shimmering pelts, their expressions unreadable. And they were not alone. Standing beside each alien was a beast that made Jax's heart hammer against his ribs. They were massive, 6-legged creatures that resembled Terran tigers, if tigers were the size of rhinos, and had hides of living, striated stone. Their eyes glowed with a faint geothermal light, and their claws scraped trenches in hard-packed earth. The tribe's people sat astride them on simple, woven saddles, as natural as if they were born there. This was it. He'd broken the charter. He'd interfered. And now the local cavalry had arrived to execute the meddling human. He raised his hands slowly, palms open. The crowd parted, and the alien he had helped emerged, limping heavily but moving under its own power. It moved to the largest of the riders, a majestic figure with a mane of silver filaments and a cloak of iridescent scales. The injured alien chittered and clicked, a complex language of sound and gesture. It pointed its nose at Jax, then at the splint on its leg, then at the empty canteen lying by the rocks. The leader dismounted with a fluid grace that belied its size. It approached Jax. Jax stood his ground, his mouth dry. The alien leader stopped a meter away, its golden eyes studying him. It didn't look angry. It looked curious, measured. Then it did something extraordinary. It bowed its head, a deep, respectful gesture. The entire tribe and their stone tiger mounts did the same. The drumming of paws and feet ceased. The silence was profound. Before Jax could process this, the crowd parted again. A younger alien was led forward. This one was slighter, its fur a lighter shade of violet, dappled with spots of silver, like a starry night. Intricate patterns were braided into the longer fur around its neck and ears. It wore delicate jewelry made of polished bone and gleaming ore. It kept its eyes lowered, but Jax could see a nervous energy in its posture. The leader made a series of gestures, pointing from a young alien to Jax, then sweeping a hand towards the stone tigers and the tribe. It placed a hand on its own chest, then on the chest of the younger one, then pointed to Jax again. The meaning was bizarre, archaic, and utterly unmistakable. It was an offering, a gift of immense value. Whoa! Hold on, Jax stammered, his hand still in the air. No, thank you. I mean, it's a very generous offer, but there's been a misunderstanding. He pointed to his broken mech, then to the sky. I'm just trying to fix my ride and go home. The leader tilted its head, uncomprehending. It gestured again, more insistently. The young alien, the proposed bride, peeked up at him through long lashes. Her eyes, the same liquid gold as the others, held not fear, but a spark of keen curiosity. Panic began to set in. How you politely decline an interspecies marriage proposal from a tribe of alien cat people who ride stone tigers? The charter had no chapter on this. He tried miming. He pointed to himself, then made a walking motion with his fingers toward the horizon. Then he pointed at the young alien and shook his head, waving his hands in a frantic, no, no, no. A low murmur went through the crowd. The leader's expression shifted from respectful to confused, then to something that looked like offended pity. It was as if Jax had just refused a kingship because he preferred his hovel. The injured alien, whom Jax had started to think of as limp, chittered urgently at the leader. It pointed at the empty canteen, then at Jax's mech, specifically at the broken hydraulic line still dripping fluid. Understanding dawned on the leader's face. It turned and barked a series of sharp commands. Two of the tribe's people dismounted and approached Jax's mech. They moved with an engineer's focus, examining the broken line, their sensitive fingers tracing the fracture. They clicked to each other, then one of them pulled a pouch from their saddle. Inside was a thick, translucent resin. They smeared it over the brake, and within seconds it had hardened into a seal stronger than the original metal. Another tribesperson approached the mech's power core, which had been failing. They placed their hands on the housing, and a faint hum filled the air. The core's diagnostic lights, which had been flickering red, glowed a steady, healthy green. In less than 10 minutes, his mech, which he'd struggled with for a day, was not just fixed, but better than before. Jax was stunned. Thank you, he said, bowing his head the way they had. Thank you. The leader nodded, a satisfied look in its eyes. It seemed the debt was paid. The marriage offer had been the initial solution, but a technological favor was an acceptable alternative. The leader gestured to the stone tigers. One of the smaller ones padded forward and nudged Jax's hand with its massive, stony head. The touch was surprisingly warm. The bride-to-be was led away, but she glanced back at Jax one last time, and he could have sworn he saw a flicker of amusement in those golden eyes. The tribe mounted up. The leader gave a final, regal nod. Then, with a thunderous roar that echoed to the canyon, the stone tigers turned and surged forward, carrying the tribe away as swiftly as they had arrived. In moments, the canyon was empty again, save for Jax, his fully operational mech, and the lingering smell of dust and warm stone.